I was a bit mistaken in the back are back. Seen a fair amount of Garrick this week. I bet you also wondering what's going on with the sardines. Well, hello and welcome to this week's Angler News Fishing Report. Now, let's start off by my predictions from last week. And I was right. I said there was going to be fish, and there was. And guys, there were a lot of fish caught over this past week. So we know last week the water was dirty. There was a touch of floods. There was the tornado, but that never stopped the anglers from going out, and they definitely reaped the rewards. Now, I was a bit mistaken in thinking that we are not going to get too much fish down the south coast. My, wasn't I proven wrong. Guys, there was a ridiculous amount of fish. Now, we're going to get into all of this in great detail later on in the show. But here's a teaser of what's going to be happening. On your offshore side, guys, the back are back. There has been a good amount of kuta, but a ridiculous amount of snook. The harbor is performing ridiculously well. That's what Durban and Richards Bay harbors. As for your freshwater, well, that is going absolutely insane with the stillwater trout action. The bass has slowed down a little bit, but there is still fish to be caught in Inanda and Hazelmere. As for the carp, Midma is the place to be. Now, like we said, we're going to get into all of that later on in the show. But for now, here's a special thanks to our sponsors, the Kingfisher. Guys, huge shout out to you. Kingfisher had their sale last week. It was absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad to hear the anglers really got hold of some good specials, because they are definitely going to be using it over this next couple of weeks. As for the other sponsors, CMH, Proton, Nissan, and Mitsubishi. Guys, big up to you. I am loving my new ride. Now, guys, let's get into the show. Starting off down the south coast. Let me start off with these words reiterated. Shad, shad, shad. Guys, it is ridiculous. From last Saturday, I mean, I've got one report coming through where there were like 100 shad that came out in an hour. I've got guys telling me that you could throw anything at a shad. Spoons, plugs, baits, banana peels, whatever you want, the shad are on the bite. It's been ridiculous. They haven't had a shad run like this in years, and they are loving it. And it came in the perfect time during the holiday period, where a lot of guys from out of town are down, and the schools are on holiday, so the kids are having a good time down there. Apart from the shad, bronze bream is on the bite, a few hounds and grey sharks, as well as grunter in the river. That's in your Umzinkulu River. That's by, the guys were telling me it's right by the bridge. That's where they're getting those nice sized grunter between 2 to 4 kilos. So the lower south coast is looking good. This weekend you've got a few heavy winds, a few big seas, but hey, I was wrong last week. So I cannot see any issues with guys having a good time again this week as well. So guys, also staying with the South Coast report, we've got this report from Adam with the water conditions. Looking a little bit rolly, but check this out. Adam talks us through it.
Hi there, Vinesh. Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. As we can see, the sea's still very big down here. Some big splashes over Beacon Rocks down on the far point there. Got some big rollers coming through here. Normally the pathway is just down here where the rocks are, and you can see it's all white water at the moment. Some really big heavy dumpers moving in. As you can see, it's not looking too great at the moment. The water is a little bit settled, not so dark, not so brown at the moment. It is a bit white. However, a lot of, as you can see, sort of white water and just some big dumpers in the area at the moment. So yeah, it's a bit on its head. Does look okay for the coming weekend, Friday. But at this stage, I mean, as you can see, Vinesh, everybody else listening in and watching in, it's not too great at the moment. This is normally a spot we come and fish for bream. You're definitely not going to be standing on any points or little ledges right now at this stage trying to catch anything.
Thank you so much for that, Adam. Now, I bet you're also wondering what's going on with the sardines, because that's where it should be, right down the south coast. We are going to give you our predictions, and what we've heard of from the CNET is actually about half an hour before I am doing this message as to where the sardines are going to be this weekend. But for now, we are talking about Warner Beach, and Warner Beach has seen a fair amount of Garrick this week. So reports from Gary came through. Garrick, shad, that's been the flavor of the week. There is the odd stumpy. The seas did turn to be a little bit rough as we entered the later half of this week. But guys, Warner Beach, Amanzimtoti, shad, Garrick, it is expected. It is winter. this is the time for it. Now, getting into Durban, guys, it hasn't been the greatest of times in Durban because of the rough seas last week, the dirty water. But there were anglers getting a few odd shad, odd stampies, odd grunter off the beachfront. As for your offshore side in Durban, guys, the back are back. Now, that's been fished pretty deep between your 55 to 75 meter mark, but Brad has been reaping some rewards off that, and so has a few other anglers. There's also been a good amount of snook. The Kuta has slowed down a bit. The guys are getting one or two in between, but not as many. The rest of the bottom fish species are fishing really well. Now, the highlight of Durban has got to be the Durban Harbor. Guys, it cleaned up really well. As predicted, the guy said it was going to last a few days. It did. And since the anglers has been out, they have been getting some real steamer grunter. Guys, it is massive fish. We've got reports of up to 7 kilos. That's been coming out on a daily basis. There are still a fair amount of snapper salmon, but there's also a good amount of cob, and that cob is averaging about 5 kilos as well. According to our correspondents, it seems as though all that fish has come in from the river. So, yeah, looks like it did us some favors. Now, let's move on to the north coast. There are a ton of shad. Ridiculous amount of shad and bronze bream. There's not much garrick. So far, the talk of the town has been the shad, and that's between Shaka's High Rock and Boulders Bay. Umhlanga Lighthouse has seen a fair amount of bronze bream, some good catches coming out of there. But apart from that, the shad are dominating the rock and surf side. On your offshore side, that is absolute fireworks at the moment, as predicted. The Becca are around. There's a lot of snook, guys. Every day. Snook, a crazy amount of snook that's been on the bite. The Kuta are there, a bit slow, but better than that is the bottom fish. Guys are getting personal best when it comes to that cracker, and apart from that, there's been a fair amount of prodigal sons that's been reported. So another good eating fish, the prodigal son, a very hard fish to catch, something we don't get too often, and there's been a fair amount of that. So that's been very positive on that end. Now, moving on to Mtinzini Banks. Guys, the rough seas has put a damper on spirits over there. Not much happening on the rock and surf side. Neither is there much happening on the river. And on your offshore side, reports of kuta and tuna. So that was the reports out of Mtinzini. Moving up to Richards Bay, fishing has been pretty good, more so on your offshore side. There's been reports of kuta, snook, rubber lips, and salmon. And in your harbor, there are pompano, rockard, and kingfish. As for St. Lucia, guys, look at the sailfish. What a catch. This was just about 2 days ago. A beautiful catch from St. Lucia with that. And apart from that sailfish, kuta is still on the bite, as well as some tuna. So some pretty good fishing in St. Lucia as well. So guys, that rounds off our saltwater report. Now moving on to the freshwater. What a great amount of catches that was sent through from Jan. That's Jan from the Kingfisher Pietermaritzburg. And guys, apart from this trout, the river season is closed. Still water action is still very much in bloom. There hasn't been too much of a winter up at the Midlands, so the conditions are still pretty favorable. And all these catches are mainly of your dragonfly and minnow patterns. Guys, the Bass boys have been keeping their cards close to their chest. Not too much reports out of Midmar or Albert Falls. However, the carp at Midmar has been really fantastic, up to 10 kilos. So some good catches from there. As for Inanda Dam and Hazelmere, Jesse has reported some fair amount of bass being caught, but these are fished pretty slow as expected. It is winter. So guys, that rounds off our report for this past week. Now, the sardines, yes, they have played hide and seek over this past week. However, I have just chatted to some of the sardine netters. I spoke to Jace Governor about half an hour ago. There was some activity. No fish came out, but a lot of activity, lots of gannets, lots of whale action, but the fish weren't close enough. The water was still a little bit warm. So nothing on Thursday. However, the guys are going out on Friday. They predict there may be a little more activity on Friday, but guaranteed Saturday and Sunday is the day. And we've got this cold front coming through on Sunday. So as long as there's not too much rain, we should be having all that fish from the Transkei coming through from this weekend. So look out for it. Make sure you follow us on all our social media channels. We are on TikTok, we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We will be updating you on a daily basis with the sardines. And of course, make sure to listen now to my sardine report on East Coast Radio at 6 every morning. So, guys, that is it. That's our report for this week. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. We have seen signs throughout the entire week, and it's only about to get a lot better. So, get out there and get those rods bending. But when you do, guys, please be careful. There were already 2 incidents over this past week with anglers falling off the rocks, and that's because of the mayhem that the shad season brings to us. We all get a bit excited, but when we do get out there, please be careful. We do not want to have any unfortunate incidences. We're all going out to have a good time. And when you're out there, always remember, keep that fishing area tidy, respect those bag limits, especially now that it's shad season, and fish for the future.